Hello and good day. My name is Michael Davidson, and I'm a Senior Climate Smart Agricultural Specialist. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I've spent the entirety of my professional career in agriculture as a farmer, scholar, business owner, and as consultant to the major development banks, NGOs, private entities, and governments, all striving to improve food and water security in the global south. And I'm also the expert speaker on climate change and agriculture on behalf of the United States Department of State. I have focused on smallholder communities in East and West Africa, Sub-Asia, the Middle East, and South America. My PhD is in public policy, my consulting firm is Climate Smart Irrigation, and my mission statement is to improve farmer crop production and profitability, reduce the risk of agricultural investments, and improve socio-ecological systems by implementing cost-effective tools of climate-smart agriculture at all scales. The succinct agenda today is to unpack the concept of climate-smart agriculture, explain the urgency of its widespread adoption, explain how and why the current modalities of the North to reduce poverty and improve food and resource security have fallen short, and to propose a more efficacious and cost-effective method and model for East Africa to be led by the good services of the United States. Without a paradigmatic shift in program design, implementation, and evaluation, we will not close the four critical gaps before us. A 56% food gap between crop calories produced in 2010 and those which we will need in 2050, an almost 600 million hectare gap if we are to continue to grow agriculture extensively, an 11 gigaton GHG mitigation gap if we are to hold global warming to a 2-degree Celsius limit, and a 31% water gap for irrigation to produce the food we're going to need in 2050. Climate smart agriculture is a mature concept. It's a methodology. It's also a suite of tools that, when properly and professionally implemented, will achieve three principal goals: mitigation, adaptation, and farmer profitability. Mitigating the environmental damage that traditional agricultural practices have caused took root in the first green revolution of the 1980s. We simply did not have complete and perfect information, which of course is needed for good decision making, and were unaware of the externalities of modern agricultural practices. Mitigation is a critically important part of agricultural science and the first principle of climate smart agriculture. For example, we need to mitigate hypoxia or oxygen deprivation of soils and water bodies, post-harvest loss, reliance on harsh chemicals to control pests, eutrophication of water bodies, converting forest land into agricultural plots, and carbon and nitrogen sourcing. Adaptation is the second principle of climate smart agriculture, and it simply means learning to farm responsibly, conscientiously, and to be aware and cognizant that agricultural systems are managed ecosystems. For example, integrated pest management using different modalities of irrigation, contour farming, properly applying fertilizers, the use of hybrid seeds, and the entire gamut of cost-effective, appropriate innovations are all tools available to us to improve crop production in a conscientious manner. The third principle of climate smart agriculture is farmer profitability. Farmers are good business people and understand the criticality of sustainability of their resources and their inputs: water, soil, energy, fertilizers, labor. Farmers all over the world would like nothing more than to adopt tools to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of these inputs, but they'll only adopt these tools when they provide significant and positive enhancements to their bottom line. There is no room for altruism here. Farming is a business, and for any program to qualify as a climate smart agriculture program, must realize the triple win. All three objectives must be reached. You may wonder if climate smart agriculture has been successful. Well, we've looked at 12.5 million farmers over 37 million hectares, and on average, when climate smart agricultural practices are implemented, the average increase in yield was 79%, the average increase in water productivity, 97%, and we averaged 0.91 equivalent tons of carbon sequestration by household per year. And at the end of the day, incomes were increased by 141%. We have been able to establish paradigms for climate smart agriculture throughout East Africa, but we haven't reached the public policy level, and we haven't been able to generalize these systems throughout East Africa, and that's what this presentation is all about. So let's discuss the urgency of adopting a well-developed agricultural program that can serve as replicable for the Global South and should demand the attention of public policy makers and funders. So let's look at water stress and water scarcity just for a moment. Water stress has implications that go beyond agriculture, implications for political unrest, for the general economy, for the natural systems. Water stress exacerbates the tensions between pastoralists and row crop farmers. Water stress forces farmers to dig deeper wells and boreholes into groundwater sources. And water stress threatens the very viability of Lake Turkana. So how are we doing so far? The International Fund for Agricultural Development, which was the UN arm that implements agricultural programs, just completed 20 programs serving 1.4 million farmers and declared that smallholder incomes were increased by 10%. The average income in Sub-Saharan Africa is about $4 a day. Some smallholder farmers earn as little as 14 cents a day. Some women smallholder farmers earn as little as 8 cents a day. So by any measure, a 10% increase is insufficient. According to a forthcoming paper of the Brookings Institution, governments of the North are spending $21 trillion a year on sustainable development goals related sectors such as health, education, agriculture, conservation, and others. The United States provides $7.5 billion in annual aid to Sub-Saharan Africa, 70% of which focuses on health and healthcare systems. So the annual aggregated total assistance provided to the Global South is about $22 trillion per year. Statistics will tell you that poverty in Sub-Saharan Africa, as a result of these programs, has fallen from 43% in 1981 to about 36% in 2015. However, a closer look illustrates a different takeaway. Using the poverty line of $1.90 a day for extreme poverty, the extreme poverty rate in Africa was indeed 43.1% in 1981, which was almost equal to the average for the rest of the world's rate at that time of 42.8%. By 2015, however, Africa's extreme poverty rate was reduced to 35.5%, but that is now 6.8 times the average of the rest of the world. Our programs have not resulted in sufficient outcomes. Let's examine a couple of agricultural statistics. Currently, Kenya continues to lag world average production of maize, pigeon peas, potatoes, and tomatoes by an aggregated average of 53%. Most programs in Sub-Saharan Africa designed to improve agricultural production begin in Kenya and are predicated on improving the adoption and use of irrigation. 10 years ago, the percent of smallholder farmers in Kenya who irrigated was 2%. Today, the percent of irrigators is 2.3%. Sub-Saharan farmers applied less than 5% of fertilizers when compared to smallholder farmers in South America and Sub-Asia. And important to note, is that when farmers in the global south do irrigate, the average water use efficiency, or the amount in percentage of water that is applied that is of utility to the plant, is only 15%. Probably the most egregious statistic is the incidence and severity of child stunting. The continent of Africa suffers from a 33% rate of child stunting, and that rate is increasing. Now, for those of you working in the global south, you are aware, and I am fully aware, of the constraints and barriers to achieving good outcomes. It's not easy. There are many constraints and barriers, and all vary from country to country, and often are county specific. To be successful, all constraints must be identified, navigated, and negotiated. This is one reason why our program calls for interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary disciplines, participation, and inputs. The Climate Smart Irrigation Program is truly holistic, which we consider not a luxury, but as an imperative. All good decisions come from perfect and complete information, and none of us has complete and perfect information. But the lead actors and agencies for a climate smart agricultural program must be agriculturalists. My colleagues and I have developed a 12-step program that is predicated on 3 principles: that agricultural excellence already exists in Kenya, the Kenyan agriculture community is demanding such a program, and we have deep respect and love for Kenya and all of East Africa. Our program is different. This is our 12-step holistic program, again, driven by demand from Kenyan and other East African farmers who realize and understand that there are no shortcuts to good outcomes. Timing is everything. At this point, I've already completed the first 5 steps. We've completed climate change projections. We've completed the feasibility study. We have multiple scenario analysis. We have a detailed strategic roadmap for the next 2 years. We have a flow-through model. We've identified our major off-taker, our major input suppliers, and we have every other agency and evaluator lined up and ready to go. We have met with stakeholder groups in 8 counties of Kenya to develop outcomes and goals and objectives. These are the 8 counties where Kenyan growers have asked us to conduct workshops and to establish centers of agricultural excellence. These are some of the growers who want to host our demonstration workshops. This is our budget. Our budget over 5 years is $3.5 million. That represents 0.34% of what was budgeted for the International Fund for Agricultural Development, which achieved, if you remember, outcomes of 10% increases in income. We project a 1,200% increase in income, and again, using $3.5 million over a 5-year period. If you look at the monthly cost, you can hardly see ours on the chart. In terms of cost, in terms of benefit, we will increase benefits by 12-fold. This program includes every facet of agriculture. It is a no shortcuts approach. We provide all training, modeling, systems, establishment of centers of excellence, and make available only the highest quality inputs. This program is not designed to be an incremental program to improve self-sufficiency. The purpose of the program is to make Kenya and then the rest of East Africa a paradigm of agricultural excellence. It is eminently possible, plausible, and feasible. I thank you, and I warmly welcome the opportunity to present the program in full. I believe this is a partnership that cannot fail, and after all, this is the most beautiful region in the world. Thank you. My name is Michael Davidson. My email is michaeldavidson24@gmail.com. michaeldavidson24@gmail.com. Thank you.